Hello, this is Robert Smyg with Europe's podcast, where we talk to the entrepreneurs and leaders who are making it happen here in Brussels, Belgium. Now get ready for an inspiring conversation with Daria Ortiz Saudry. Daria is a seasoned communication specialist with over 10 years experience in broadcasting, creative content production, and social media management before moving to Brussels in 2016 to pursue a career in the European Union bubble. She freelanced in her home country of Poland as a radio and TV journalist, event moderator, translator, editor, teacher, and a few more. Daria's lifelong passion for impactful storytelling and public speaking has led her to join the Brussels Toastmasters Club, head the speakers coaches team at TEDxBrussels, and organize numerous workshops and provide individual public speaking coaching to business leaders, politicians, startup founders, scientists, and others. Daria strongly believes that public speaking is a skill anyone can master, and she is there to lend a helping hand along the way. Thank you, Daria, for coming on Europe's podcast today and sharing your journey with all our listeners.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's really lovely to be here.
Yes, and it's a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. Let's get started right away. You're from Poland, so beautiful, beautiful country. You left in 2016. You came to Belgium. Very interesting story there. What exactly is the European Union bubble for you, and why did you leave Poland and make that transition? Give us some background on that.
Right. So, just to go back in time a little bit, I need to clarify that I wasn't going directly from Poland. So, it's true, I'm Polish, despite my very Spanish sounding surnames and the first name too. It is correct, I'm from Poland, but when I moved to Belgium, I actually moved from Italy. So, if you hear a little bit of an Italian accent in my English, that's correct. I was obsessed with Italy at the time. And I definitely blame good Italian wine for making me move to Belgium, because believe me, it was never my dream. I had never had Belgium on my destinations for life list. So, I was at the time doing a university exchange. I don't know if you're familiar with Erasmus Plus. It's a university exchange program run by the EU as well.
Okay.
And it was a moment of my life when I had to decide what to do next. So I was finishing my master's thesis. I had no idea what to do. And after drinking some good Italian wine, I decided to Google three keywords: internship, languages, paid. The paid aspect was very important.
Of course.
And what I got from my Google research based on these three keywords was the Blue Book traineeship at the European Commission in Belgium, Brussels. And without thinking too much, I applied. I met all the requirements, and somehow I got in, only afterwards realizing how hard the whole process is. So I think it was meant to be. Actually, the first phone call I got was from Warsaw, the EU representation office in Poland. I refused, again, without realizing how much of a risk I was taking. But then I got another phone call from Brussels, and that's how I ended up there. I must admit that I was very ignorant at the time. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what Belgium offered. And it was a very nice, positive surprise, because Belgium is full of these beautiful Art Nouveau architecture, buildings. It has amazing chocolate pralines, if you're not aware. Some fries, waffles, I mean, great beer. It has a lot of really, really nice things. Of course, I didn't stay just for those, but nevertheless, it was a lovely surprise. And I still wanted to go back to Warsaw. My plan was to go back to Poland, but life happens. I got a job offer straight after my traineeship, and I also met my husband at the time. So, despite having a job offer back home, I did an interview just before leaving for Brussels, and I knew that job, it was a newsroom reporting job. It was waiting for me, but I decided, you know what, I have this gut feeling. Sometimes you have this gut feeling something big is waiting for me here. Let me give a try to this guy I just met. Let me give a try to this job. And here I am, 10 years later, and it's not an exceptional story. So I want to tell you that along the way, I've met a lot of people who have a very similar stories. They come for a few months, they stay their whole life. I'm one of these people, and in fact, I'm still working in the what you call the European Union bubble. What is it? In short, it has two meanings. One is a little bit more physical, the other one is a little bit more metaphorical, at least in my experience. In the physical meaning, it's literally the EU quarter in the city of Brussels. It's where you will see all the main European Union institutions, the European Commission, Parliament, Council, and all the other organizations that work somehow around these institutions, lobbyists, NGOs, different international organizations that have an interest in being close to the EU institutions. And then this more metaphorical meaning is really, first of all, the mindset of working in the EU sphere, in the EU affairs, and all the people that come along with it, people who work in the institutions, civil servants, politicians, interpreters, journalists, you name it. It's a really, really big international EU bubble. And I am a part of it, not only. I like to go beyond, but it is
Mm-hmm.
a big part of my life for sure. And if you haven't been to Brussels, if you ever come, I will definitely show you what I mean. And I'm pretty sure you will quickly understand what stands behind this term.
Yes, I can imagine. So let's go back to, I guess, Poland for a second here. What's the backstory of how you got into communications and broadcasting? You seem to be in social media and in different areas, but how did you kind of pinpoint, public speaking, communications, broadcasting? That was your calling. When did you kind of realize that?
Very early childhood. And it's something that I was only able to realize sometime during one of my midlife career crises. And I think that's what experts actually advise to do whenever you're in doubt about your future, where you're going, your career choices. They say, look back into your early childhood and really ask yourself, what made your heart sing back then? And when I asked this question a couple of years ago, I realized that the very first moment when I felt fulfilled, I felt I was in the right place at the right time, was in my kindergarten, playing the role of Saint Mary in the Nativity play. I was this Saint Mary carrying the baby Jesus, singing, performing, and I felt great. And this is really where I can first recognize in myself this positive feeling or this enjoyment of being in the creative world. And this creativity has always linked anything I did in my life. Of course, I didn't know that I would end up doing communications, but the creativity was this what we call fil rouge in French. So this combining element that really linked together everything I have ever done. I just had one problem, and that was curiosity. So along the way from that nativity play to where I am now, I was always very curious about many different things, and I could never really decide on one. So I wanted to do geography, photography. I loved Italy. I wanted to be a blogger. I wanted to travel the world and write about it. There were just so many stories I wanted to do, and I could never really decide on one until I went to a university camp. It was an integration camp at the very first year of my university, and I saw a student TV channel. They are still, by the way, they still exist. They're called Uniwerek TV in Polish. And I realized, okay, well, maybe I could talk about all these things that interest me as a reporter in that TV team. I applied. and it was a perfect match from the very beginning. I immediately jumped into the role of reporting on university events, all the topics that I was so curious about. And since then, really, the media aspect, working in broadcasting, communicating things, being this intermediary between what happens and the people who may find it interesting, has been the foundation of my professional career. Now, how does this lead me to public speaking? And I don't know if we have that much time,
Yeah.
Robert, but
Okay.
I talk a lot because that's what I do for a living. But I promise my future answers will be shorter, but this is really important for me.
Okay.
So I was reporting on lifestyle events. At some point, I applied for a job interview in Poland to be a professional TV reporter. I must have been 19 at that time. And I went to the job interview. I didn't know, it was the worst job interview you can imagine. I didn't know an answer to any question. And the person who was interviewing me laughed at my wrong answers or ridiculed me throughout the whole time. I even felt embarrassed to talk about it in the in the following 10 years or so. But right now, I'm completely comfortable speaking about this experience. I went back to my car after the job interview. I cried for half an hour. I couldn't really calm myself down, and it made me kind of traumatized. So, from that girl who liked being on stage, who liked dancing, singing, performing, I suddenly became a person who was extremely scared of speaking in public. And when I arrived in Brussels, I was even terrified just to say my name at the team meeting. I was completely withdrawn and I couldn't understand what happened. Why am I suddenly a completely different person? And then I encountered a book and a public speaking coach, Richard Newman, who just came to the commission where I work, and he delivered a lecture, and he showed me that public speaking is really a skill like swimming or singing, and anybody can learn it. But most importantly, he explained that these traumas that happen, they make us go back into our shells and never want to speak again. So I started working on my own public speaking skills, reading a lot of books, going to more workshops, and I got better at it. I joined the Toastmasters Public Speaking Club. I eventually became this TEDxBrussels speaker coach, and I rediscovered my passion for communication, for media, for being in the spotlight without feeling completely paralyzed. And as you can see, talking a lot, which I really, really like. And that's where I decided this is my mission on this planet right now, to help other people become less afraid of speaking in public, of just showing them that there may be an event in their own lives where they became scared, and there is no point in having that fear continue blocking them throughout life. That's really what I do right now. I coach people, I give them the tools not only to be better communicators, better speakers, but really to be less afraid of being vulnerable, of being in that spot where everybody's looking at you.
Okay, so you're a communication specialist at the European Commission. Can you give us an idea of what you do in that position? Is that part of the training and public speaking and getting these people in the Commission to become better speakers? Is that part of it?
Not really. So I combine two lives. I have my 9 to 5 job in the European Commission, that is true, where I do communications. And then I have my side freelancing as a public speaking coach and event moderator. Within the European Commission, what I do within my team is we try to show how the EU helps people affected by crises, such as natural hazards, conflict. So I work in the Directorate General for Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations. And our role is really to show taxpayers, EU taxpayers, how their money is spent, which projects we support through different formats in terms of communication, video production, social media posts, press releases, etc., etc. While my side freelancing is all about public speaking, and I do that really mainly, if not only outside the European Commission. However, it is true that when I started, when I had this wow moment of I want to do public speaking, I did run a couple of internal projects. So I called myself at first intrapreneur. Have you heard about
Yes, of
this
course.
before? So it's all you do within your full-time job, within your organization or company. And I would run lunchtime sessions for colleagues, how to be better at public speaking. And this is really where I realized, okay, it's working. I can do that. This is what gives me a lot of fun, a lot of fulfillment. Why don't I now move it externally? And there is a possibility to do that. Of course, there are certain conditions. And maybe this is a good moment to also add a disclaimer that today I'm not speaking on behalf of the European Commission. Everything I say is related to
Of
my
course.
side freelancing, which we call in Belgium a complementary professional activity.
Okay.
That's how I do.
Good. Now, you do have a passion for Brussels, so let's talk a bit about Brussels and where you live. What makes Belgium and Brussels so special about working and living there? And also, give me the entrepreneurial vibe and atmosphere. What's that like? Is there a lot of networking? Are there conferences? Are there workshops or meetups, things like that? What's the overall vibe for entrepreneurs? If I was to come there, or anyone to come to Brussels and go, hey, what's going to be like for me to connect with other entrepreneurs? Give us the. Give us.
Have you been to Brussels?
No, I haven't been all over Europe, not
Oh,
Brussels yet, but I want to come.
okay.
Yeah. So you're laying
Okay.
down the groundwork for me. So.
Yeah, Brussels is very often this love-hate relationship. You will either hear people that they love it or they hate it. And I've been through all these phases already. So now I'm just fine with it. I live here, I accept it, I know all its good and bad sides, just like in a long-term relationship, but I decide to commit and stay. Brussels is a melting pot. We often call it this way. It's full of people from all over the world. It may be one of the most international places I have ever visited, comparable with London, New York. In my personal experience, of course, everybody may have a different one, but I have friends from all over the world, and I often laugh that you can travel the world here without really leaving the city. So it's incredibly rich because every person who comes from very, very far away, exotic places sometimes brings a new perspective, new ideas, new solutions, new ambitions. And many of these people are entrepreneurs. They want to contribute to the community, to the society. So they come up with brilliant ideas and brilliant projects. There are a lot of startups. Now, whether it's a good place for entrepreneurs, yes and no. Now, I'm not a full-time entrepreneur, so I don't know if I'm the best person to really answer that question. But yes, because there are a lot of networking opportunities, a lot of funding opportunities, plenty of events. If you wanted to, you could go to an event every single day. You just need to look for them, but it's definitely busy. You can find things to do, you can find people to network with, you can find financing opportunities. However, there are challenges for sure. Brussels is well known for its high taxes. So being an entrepreneur is expensive. Even though you can start a business, open it as an activity very quickly, it takes a couple of minutes online, and that isn't expensive, it's on its own. But to run a business, pay social contribution, pay taxes, that costs a little bit of money. Plus, of course, all this richness of people creates high competition. So it may be another challenge to just go through with your own idea and really find your niche and succeed in what you're the best at.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit how you educate yourself. We want to learn how you kind of stay ahead of the game here. Give me some books you read on business or other podcasts, audiobooks, or any AI tools that you use. Do you have any authors you follow or podcasts that help you, whether it be communications, whether it be business, whether it be in speaking, to help hone your skills, to stay on top of things? Is there anyone you follow or any books you read, and what are they?
The first book I already briefly mentioned is by Richard Newman. It's called You Were Born to Speak. It's not probably one of the biggest public speaking publications, but it really changed my my life. It really changed the way I saw myself as a public speaker. So I highly recommend that book. On the second position, I would mention a book called The Art of Happiness, which is briefly the philosophy of life. And I use it for anything I do in life. I have these four directions: kindness, compassion, tolerance, and patience. And I try to implement them, use them wherever I go, whatever I do, public speaking or else. But other than that, I really like stand-up comedy. I love Trevor Noah. I like his podcast. I like what he does on stage. I saw him live in Cape Town some years ago, and I absolutely loved it. He's a brilliant storyteller. I like Taylor Tomlinson. She's now trending on Netflix with her stand-up comedy show. I think we need more humor in any public speaking, in any presentation at work, private life. The world is really not in the brightest place right now. So a little bit of humor is something we need, a little bit of laughter. And that's where I look for inspiration a lot. Plus, my family and friends. Sometimes we tend to go very far into celebrities, people that are known, but actually, I have so many wonderful storytellers in my own circle. All it takes is a little bit more, a little bit of attention. So drop your phone and really be present and observe how people speak, what stories they tell, how they tell these stories. I have some really, really fascinating people around me who are very inspiring just by the way they talk. So these would be the four or five main pillars. And then, of course, I continue going to my Toastmasters public speaking club, despite being quite a good speaker already, but you can always improve, and that's incredible. No matter how good you are, you will always get feedback for improvement. So I stay humble. I stay humble. I try to go to these meetings regularly, do my speeches, participate in contests, and learn through experience.
Okay, good. Okay, let's talk about a bit more about communications and speaking. Give me one piece of knowledge or information about your industry you can share that would benefit our listeners. Something maybe the common person may not know about, or they haven't got into any kind of speaking. They may have a company. They may be doing something that is, a lot of tech people tend to be honing in on their task or their projects. But you're in the public speaking and obviously Toastmasters thing. Give us some kind of key knowledge about that industry that the common person may benefit from and provide some value for.
Many people who come to me for coaching help, they start from saying, I was not born to do this. I'm not a natural. I'm not good at public speaking. And I don't think I will ever really learn how to do it because I was not born with the talent. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions in this industry. Everybody who is a good speaker right now was a beginner at some point. Of course, there are people who are, I wouldn't say naturals, but it comes to them a little bit easier. Of course, it could happen. But many people that we see as great public speakers today were not there at the beginning. Think about Steve Jobs. He was terrible at public speaking at first, and many people don't know that. If you look for his speeches from the beginning of his entrepreneurial path, you would be surprised. And the same goes for famous politicians. They receive a lot of support, a lot of training. They have dedicated speechwriter. Many people don't know that Barack Obama had a speechwriter as the president. Of course, he adds his own voice and he's a great speaker, but he did have speechwriting support. The same goes for TED speakers, TED Talks speakers. Many people think that they just go on the stage and they shine, but there is months of preparations behind the scenes. So next time you think, you or anybody listening, that you are not a natural and that you will never get there, remember that you can. With practice, with exercises, with training, it really is a skill anybody can master. I always repeat that. And now you have very specific examples from the industry that prove my point. It's not something I just made up.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, right?
There is no point comparing yourself at the beginning to somebody at the end.
Yeah,
You
I think
just
that's
need to start with a small step and get better at it, like at any other thing in life.
okay. Can you give our listeners some tricks or tips that might help them with public speaking or even dealing with the media? Anything that someone who's never had experience in this area, some real quick kind of go to things that might help them?
Don't be yourself. It's a myth. I don't know how often do we hear just be yourself. I disagree. Be authentic, but don't necessarily be yourself in terms of public speaking because you may be making a lot of mistakes subconsciously that you're not aware of. So if you go with your default version, it may not work. You may do strange things with your hands, touching your hair, nervous tics, giving yourself a massage, or doing the annoying gap filler sounds like um when you think. Instead, pause, take a deep breath, learn how to eliminate those old bad habits that we call being ourselves, being the default version, the best version. That's the first thing. And the second thing, if you want a very quick tip, how not to be nervous, because many people come to me because of their anxiety of the fear of public speaking. There is this way of so we can influence our body through our mind, but research shows that you can also influence your mind with your body. So if you're extremely nervous before a presentation, before a speech, stand in a superhero position for 2 minutes. Just,
Superhero position.
superhero position. So wide legs, wide arms stretched into the ceiling. Stand like that for 2 minutes, and I promise you it can give your mind a boost of confidence just because your body will feel like it's standing in this powerful position. It's a little trick. It may not work for
Okay.
everybody, but it could help. So keep
Yes.
this in mind for the next time.
Good. Okay. We're going to wrap things up here, Daria. How can our listeners get hold of you? And is there anything you'd like to add before you leave us today? Anything we've left out? Anything you'd like to add that you think would be help any entrepreneur out there in their endeavor to become a better speaker?
Right, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's practically the only platform I use, or my website, dariaortiz.com. One thing I wanted to tell all aspiring entrepreneurs is tell people what you're good at because they may not know. Spread the word. Don't be arrogant, don't be shy. Stay humble, but tell the world what you can offer because the world may not know. So don't be afraid of sharing your passion, your skills. Find the confidence to tell your friend, your neighbor, your colleague. You never know what the world might need and when. And maybe when that moment comes, they will think about you. Oh, I think I've heard somebody being good at it, somebody offering that service or skill. So why don't we call them? That's what I would leave you with today. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Yeah, some great advice. Okay, Daria, thank you for coming on the show on Europe's podcast. I've learned a lot about you, and I'm sure our listeners have as well. And we'll see you next
Thanks a
time.
lot. Thank you, and good luck to you and everybody else
Yes,
trying
you
to
too
be
as well.
better at anything,
You know,
really,
your words
including
are,
public speaking.
yeah, your words are very inspiring. So I hope we all learn from this. This is excellent advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.